All right, I'm here with Ricky Colosimo. Now, Wanderers promotion is already doing so well. We just finished our second pro event, and that was a huge event entirely with amazing support behind it. We had heaps of pro fighters there and amateurs. The amateur card was on point. I know Tommy did really well with that one. What were your thoughts about the whole night, how it all came together?
It was an amazing night. I was so happy with the way everything panned out. I knew a lot of those pro fights were going to be crackers, and they all delivered. So it was even with the amateurs, like it was just a well-run event, and everything came together nicely. And it's just showing the sort of direction where we're going, which is amazing. And I think everyone that was there was like, "Oh, fuck, it's legit," So it's cool.
It is legit now. Like you see the quality of fights, the quality of people that are coming to the fights as well. Where are we sort of headed with the amateur fights? I know we were doing some at Hudson for a bit, and now we're doing more pro amateurs at Bella Vista. Where's your plan headed?
So my goal is really just to build the whole sport and attack it from a few different angles, including the pros, the amateurs, like in the grassroots, and then also the corporates as well. So I did my schedule a couple of weeks ago for next year, and I think there's 10 shows booked in already for next year. So some crackers as well, and we're going to go televised fights as well. So we should be looking at early next year. Got a couple of guys that have put their hand up, which are quality big names as well, and they're all coming to us and asking us to put them on the card. So it's amazing. It's just so cool to see the growth in a short time.
Wow, how does it feel when you get those calls like, "Hey, I want to jump on your show," and they're a high-end pro fighter? How does that feel?
Oh, it feels great. I know what the product is, and I know the potential it has, and it's just a matter of getting the runs on the board. But I think those first couple of shows, people have seen that the quality we're going to deliver, and it's only going to get better.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to seeing the growth, and it's happening. So it's we're in the process, and it's so cool.
I remember being with you on the Wanderer Pro 2 night, and the amount of people that came up to you and said, "We love what you're doing with boxing. We love what you're doing for the amateurs." Like having that said to you, what goes through your head at that time?
It's to me, I don't really get. I love it. Like it's great. But I don't buy into taking too much credit, and I don't because it's like I did some work with the coach a couple of weeks ago, and they said don't take no credit, don't take no blame, just focus on your chief aim. And that's like
I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I thought about, I'm like, well, it's true. Like trying to focus on just building it up, and that's what we're doing. So it's beautiful to see people that are enjoying it, and it's growing. But we're just getting started.
Yeah, it's such a slick night as well. The way that all the amateurs roll out, and then the pros, you can't fault the whole show. We have memorabilia auctions that some of the stuff I was watching, I was like, how did he even get that? Like the quality of the items that you were selling was amazing, and even the quality of the people that were putting their hand up for it was just a great night. It really rolled out nicely.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. Like there's a quote that I posted on Instagram a while ago, and it says, "Don't chase butterflies, you'll catch nothing. Just build a beautiful garden, and the butterflies will come." And that's what we're doing. We're building something very special, and I think everyone in the industry, and hopefully I'm going to attract the greater Australian public as well.
Yep.
But they're all seeing what it is, and it's going to keep growing for sure.
Wow. So your Warehouse Rumble 3, now that's the next one coming up. We're looking at late November for that one.
Yeah.
What do you have in planned out for that one so far?
Yeah, so we're going to do that on a Sunday.
Nice.
And we're going to put on 30 amateur fights throughout the Sunday, and then do pros early, probably like 5, 6 p.m. And then hopefully finish up about like 9 o'clock, so people can spend the whole day there.
Yeah, wow.
But we're going to do different entertainment. Like I actually had a meeting yesterday with a lady. It does all. It's pretty cool. Like I don't want to say too much in terms of the entertainment. But like the stuff I was spewing, because last event I've developed a theme song for the shows. And we were going to have a live entertainment part, but the lady got sick, unfortunately, so that didn't end up happening. But next fight night, going to bring a little bit of different entertainment, and
Nice.
So punters that don't really just watch boxing, they're still going to enjoy watching it no matter what.
I think the thing that people also forget is that this is only the third time you're doing a pro amateur fight night, and it only gets better from here. So you excel every single time, and you take in people's inputs as well. Like if someone's going to give you advice on something, you take that and you build it into something else. So the next event, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But it takes a bit of time. A lot of these other shows have been going for years and years to get to that point.
Yeah, for sure. I think I laugh because someone said to me the other day, "Fuck, you've come a long way in a short time."
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, not really, because I've been prepping for that long way for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's been mainly through my own boxing experience and learning the ropes and knowing the game and knowing the people and seeing what actually makes a good show. So I feel like that was sort of my study, and now it's actually happening. So in a lot of ways, even the fact that I got injured before my last fight, it's turned out to be such a blessing, because if I didn't, then I wouldn't be doing this now.
Yeah, things happen for a reason. I feel like everything's a learning curve, and life pushes you in the way where sometimes unfortunate things happen, but you look back and you're like, kind of was meant to happen in that way.
Yeah.
I feel like you were supposed to lead on a different path. You did your boxing, and now you're going to share what you've learned over your boxing career and make these shows into something else. In Australia, we're only just building up our boxing, especially women's boxing. That's just getting bigger. And you look overseas at these shows, and they do run on Sundays, and they have huge lineups of professional fights that are all 50-50 fights. And now we're seeing these 50-50 fights on your cards. And you even had like the likes of George Kambosos, who was saying, yeah, this was a really close fight. That was an awesome fight. And I think he said he wasn't going to stick around for the whole event. He ended up staying right to the end where the doors shut. And that's how you know that someone says, I'm just going to make an appearance, but then, whoa, I'm actually loving this.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's so good to have people like that supporting the promotion, but I think more is going to come as well.
Yeah.
And I think that I think people need to see it for themselves to actually understand what it's about. And everyone that has seen it is like, okay, this guy's, it's not just talk.
No.
And so I like, at first people like, they don't take you seriously, but I think people now are starting to take it serious, which is cool.
Yeah, and it's not as easy as people think it is. Like, I remember looking at everything with you and what your plan was to do, and you're mapping out where we're going to head. And I just said, all right, Ricky, all right. And then you see it come into life, and you're like, oh my gosh, he wasn't like lying about this. Like, he was being for real. And then you don't realize the little bits behind it. You're like, oh my gosh, like, I could not do this. I don't know how. A lot of people would obviously try and do it, and they'd fail because it's so hard.
Yeah, the biggest thing that it's for me is I always say, even when I was working in the pubs before, is it's most of the stuff. It's 70% of unforeseen stuff that comes up, which is the challenges and that you don't see coming, which really tests you.
Yes.
And you can make a plan or whatever, but you don't really plan for all the shit that you don't know about that's going to come and challenge you. And there's been massive amounts of that, like both personally and business wise. Even just people, when you rise up, some people aren't always the happiest for you. A lot of it's been amazing. I have had amazing support, but then there's also been some people trying to take you down as well. But that's just a part of the game, and I'm not really buying into it. I laughed because someone messaged me the other day and actually mentioned something about that. I said, "Oh, that's fine, because it's not going to stop me." And I truly feel like that whatever's going to come, we're just going to handle it, and we're going to keep going on the path, which is cool.
Yeah, I even get it in media a lot as well. I'd go to jump on a show, and I'd ask, like, what do you think of this? And someone would say, oh, they didn't get along with this other person. But it's like, hold on, this is my story. I don't care what anyone has. If they've had a problem in the past, that's not me. I'm starting fresh. And I think that's the problem with boxing, is that a lot of people had a bad taste of someone else later in the beginning, and they're bringing it through still. But it takes that one person to stop it and build the beginning of something else. Because otherwise, if you're living on other people's dramas, it's just never going to go anywhere.
Well, you see, like, it's always been so dissected, boxing, and there's little silos, and some people don't deal with other people and stuff. But my goal is to work with everyone collaboratively, and there's like, instead of just trying to take a bigger piece of the pie, so why not make the whole pie bigger, and then everyone has more to eat. And so even with some of the other promoters and that, like, I'm more than willing to work with them, and I don't see them as competition at all, because for me it's like, I'm not even looking at what other people are doing. I'm just focused on doing what I think will work, and what, as from a fighter's perspective, and doing it my own way. And that's what I've loved doing, because I've heard different people say stuff or whatever, and it's just like, that's fine. No, I've got no problem at all with that, because it's like, I'm not even playing the same game. I'm just playing my own game, running my own race, and it's happening, which is mad.
Yeah, you're playing in a game where you're using social media to your advantage as well, where you've got a lot of fighters that they struggle with promoting themselves and gaining sponsorships, and you're giving this platform where they're able to build themselves up. And I remember you working with Bjorn on his next fight, and you're managing him. And in the way you're working with him is you're trying to get him to reach out to sponsors and get that funding, because it's not easy to work a full-time job and be a pro boxer.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like even just say, because we're talking about maybe Luke Jackson fighting on one of the cards.
Yeah, wow.
And so I said to him, I said, obviously I want to make sure that you get paid and get looked after, and you actually it's a win-win. So I said, why don't you do this? And I said, come up with give me all your content, like photos and your bio and stuff, and then I'll build out a sponsorship package for you, and then you can just write down all the people that in your network, because he's got a good network, and say I'm going to go and hit these people up. And so then you just go give them the sponsorship package, and then that should secure more funding. So that's all just happened now. Yeah. And it's more of a thing where it's like I'm actually trying to look after the fighters and not manage them, but promote them properly. So they're making more money, and they're happy to fight on the show. And then everyone's winning, and it's not just me.
Yeah, it's better to have happier fighters than dealing with fighters who are not happy with how much money they're making and how hard it is for them to be dieting and doing all this and putting themselves on a show and taking a hard fight. I think leading up to these big shows that you've got coming up, they want to get on these undercards because you've got massive headliners. And I know that we're not releasing too much at this point, but those pro fighters want to get on these cards. There's going to be a lot of eyes on the future cards of Wonder Promotions.
Yeah, like we're just the plans that are in place and sort of the moves that are happening behind the scenes. It's like, fuck, this is if we can pull this off, it's going to be massive. And people that fight on the card, they're gonna want to fight on that card. And even for me now, just in general, the amount of fighters that reach out to me and say, like, look, like I'm if you need anyone or whatever, I'm available, or even their coaches or whatever. And that's a good sign, because you've got a good reputation of trying to look after fighters and building it up for them. And I think that's the whole goal. And it's like, I want people to be proud to fight on the show. Like for a lot of these guys, they're not going to be world champions, but this is going to be one of the highlights of their life. And so I always want to think about, like, fuck, I fought on a Wanderers show. Yeah. Especially like if I fast forward 10 years, like if we get to where we're going to be, then it's going to be like, fuck, I fought on that card when I was younger. Like, that was the best thing ever. And that's, I love providing that. And you see that, even when we was chatting at the last show, you saw different people coming up, and they could see what we were providing for or the platform that we were providing for their either child or their family friend or whatever it was. And they're like, man, this is so special for them, because they're so G'd up, like they're doing the interview, they're feeling special. And then it's like, it's gone out to their network. So it's like people will see him and go, wow, this guy's a star. He's actually good. Yeah. And so that's what builds it up. And I think that's going to be a continual hype thing that we keep doing and keep expanding, because that's what people want to see.
You know, the biggest thing I noticed from the first fight night I ever did interviews on, which was at Hudson Hotel, you'd have to chase people for an interview. Now I'm walking around there like, can I get my interview? Can I get my interview? Because I realize the reach it gets and the amount of exposure that they're given to. Yeah. And a lot of people want to jump on that and sponsor them, because that's what they need. They need people to support their journey and see what they produce, because them just saying thank you to this person, this person, this person, that's building up their sponsorship.
Yeah, for sure. Like when the guys had 1,000 shares and 70,000 views. And I'm just like, crazy. Man, that's pretty damn good reach for a little kid.
A little bit
like
jealous.
He's like 15 years old. I'm like, wow, like having that exposure at that age is massive. And it's like, I wish that was around when I was younger, but it's not. But this is the age we're living in. And, well, whether you like it or not, social media is a big thing. So these young guys have to leverage it, because that's how a lot of business is done these days.
Yeah. And you're talking about 10 years plan, right?
Yeah.
What is your 10-year plan for Wonder Promotions? Where do you see this sort of headed?
I want to see boxing become a top tier sport in Australia.
Yep.
I want to like the stuff, because I want to share the mental side that how much it helps young men and women. So it's like a transformative power that it has. Like, I know it saved me so much in my life. Like, I always say boxing is my North Star, because whenever I was in dramas or whenever I wanted to put my energy into something, I would just go and train, and that really helped me change my life. Like, the discipline and that I learned from it was massive. So I want to be doing stuff like big seminars, and then open up a school for these younger guys where you're actually teaching about, it's not just boxing, but mindset, breath work, all the meditation, because so much of this stuff now is it's a little bit more about consciousness. And actually, when you're training, and it's the best fighters are always they're always tapped into that softer side also.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't realize how much of the mindset actually creates this whole sport. And you see it. Like, you see fighters before a fight, and some of them have a routine, some of them don't. Some of them are able to get back in the ring straight after that fight. It all just depends on how determined they are to get in there.
I truly believe, like when my fights, when I'm training for a fight, like I do so much meditating and visualizing that when the fight happens, I've been there before.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a big thing where a lot of fighters, like, it's unknown, especially for a lot of these younger guys, just how powerful that side is. And that, I only really started tapping into that as I got older. And I'm like, fuck, I wish I learned this stuff when I was young, because it gives you such an extra strength that you can go through a lot more because you're mentally already prepared for it.
Yeah, definitely. It changes the way you think. I know boxing's changed my life for the better, only for the better. But there is a lot of people that they get out of the ring and they probably say, no, I'm done. And then you give it a few years and they watch everyone else, jumping in the ring, and it gives that sort of FOMO feeling. I bet you feel it watching all these fighters getting in the ring on Wanderer Promotions.
Oh, because I stopped boxing when I was 21 or 20. I stopped boxing for 8 years.
Wow.
And I said I was done. I didn't even do pads or anything at all in that time. I was like fully just off it.
Yep.
And then I was seeing all the guys that I was better than in the amateurs, all guys that I knew I could beat, and they were all winning big titles and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, mate, that's you're wasting your own talent. And so then that always made me want to get back into it. And now when I see these young guys doing it on this card, I don't have FOMO as such. It's more of a thing that it's making me satisfied because I'm not taking any punishment. I'm not putting my body through a lot of stress, but it's still getting a lot of fulfillment seeing what this does for other guys. But there's no feeling like fighting. You know what I mean? You can't. There's no replacement for that at all.
That feeling, as soon as you hit the ring, I get the nerves. The nerve bit I probably could do without.
Yeah.
But the minute you hit the ring and then you finish that first round, you're like, wow, that is like an adrenaline rush like no other. It's like jumping out of a plane and doing skydive, just not as much.
I actually watched it. Like, I just was going through my phone last night and I saw a video from me before my fight at the Star. And it was like just when they were calling my name. And I still remember that feeling so clearly, like when I was in the ring, because I was like, fuck, this is it. Like, we're here now.
Yeah.
And I remember just looking at the other guy at the other side of the ring, and we're just looking at each other. I just gave him a nod like, okay, we're doing it now. And you can't, that feeling, it has to be earned. It has to be earned. It can't be given. So it's amazing when it actually happens,
And so you've got Wanderer 3, that's coming up. Now, you want sponsors to jump on this card because once they jump on, they can follow your journey as well. We've got huge talent coming into the next few cards leading into next year, and you've got televised fights as well. In Australian boxing, there's only a couple of televised fight cards, so it's going to be a huge, set of events next year.
Yeah.
What can you incite these sponsors to jump on, and how can you sort of explain to them what they're going to get out of this value of fight cards?
Yeah, for sure. I think with the sponsors, it's we're in a massive growth phase now, so we're just really starting the journey. So trying to quantify it right now, that's hard to do because it's like I can tell you what the vision is.
Yeah.
But it's like now we're at that first step of the vision. So we've got televised fights lined up for next year, which is going to be massive exposure. I'm also looking into my own streaming service as well. So when it'll be a Wanderer thing. So it's like a Wanderer channel where they're going to get all fight tutorials, clips, interviews, and also the fight nights, of course. So there's massive exposure there for any sort of sponsors that are willing to jump on board. Also, like just on the fight nights itself, it's going to like within the venue. There's over 1,200 people there.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
It's awesome, and it's like we're just going to keep growing. So in terms of the sponsors, like I want to make sure that the sponsors get looked after as well. So we're trying to do in the next week. We're actually going to go out and do some videos for the sponsors where they're promoting their business, and then they can use that for their marketing. Because a lot of these guys don't really focus on their marketing too much. And so it's plugging that gap for them as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you get that interaction as well. You're going to be having the fighters helping with the sponsors as well. They're wearing the brands, and that's some exposure that not a lot of companies get to do. I think sponsoring fight nights and sponsoring fighters is another level of marketing where it's a really smart type of marketing as well. It reaches a whole branch of people. And I remember like every fight night I've been to, I could probably pick out each sponsor because they drilled it into you the whole night. And you're like, you go for it to, the shops and you're like, I did work with them, so I might buy something from them just because I worked with them,
I always laugh because when Canelo fought Golovkin, one of them, I love watches, and one of them was sponsored by Hublot, the other was by Rolex.
Yeah.
And they had each on their shorts and then on each other ring. And I was like, fuck, that sort of stuff you always remember.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, like, I wonder how much they pay those sort of sponsors, which would be massive.
Oh, crazy. But that's what I mean. Like, that stuck with you, that name. And it's just the power of boxing because you don't realize when you watch sport, you're taking in not just what's happening, but you're taking in the atmosphere as well. Like, you can remember the songs that they've played. You can remember what the announcer said. And it's just such a captivating way of marketing as well. And I think the way that you're doing your fight nights with the social media as well, with the televised fights, and with the amazing talent you've got on these cards, it's just going to excel. And you can see it even just sitting in this position. I remember a couple of months ago we were sitting in this position talking about them, and I was like, yeah, right, Ricky, whatever you say, Ricky. And you see it now and you're like, oh my gosh, how it all panned out.
Yeah, it's cool. And we're just getting started. Like, that's all I can say, because it's like, I just look at it, I'm like, okay, this is the first step. And then it's like, even on the fight night, I was looking around and I was seeing how many people were there. And I'm like, okay, people are starting to realize now. But I think it's, in my mind, it's happening. So it's like, I don't like any of the challenges or whatever comes sidetrack. I don't really care about that. It's, I feel like it's written already,
Wow, yeah, it's insane. I'm happy to be a part of it. It's actually a really cool journey, and it's opened up a lot of opportunities for me, so I'm always grateful for that. And it exposes boxing in like a different way for me as well. And you don't realize how much you can be involved in the sport without fighting, as much as I'd like to fight again.
Yeah.
But you don't realize how much, and you're like, wow, I walk over to gyms and I'll go to open days, and a lot of people are like, hey, you're the girl that always does the interview. You're always involved in our journey. And I said, yeah, I'm watching you still. I'm watching all your socials, and I love what you're doing, and your training is on point. And how cool is that you're going to be having these people build through the amateurs into your program? It's just another level.
Well, it was funny because I went to the beach the other day, and I was sitting there and just at the cafe, and a guy just walked past me, and he just started talking. He goes, you're the professional boxer from Wanderers. And he goes, I love your content. Then it happened 2 or 3 times just in that day. And so it's pretty cool to see like people actually, like I was just saying to you before off camera, that the reach that we're getting, because people that I don't even know are just coming up saying, man, you're doing awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And I think a massive thing that we're going to do soon is doing that fitness expo.
Yeah.
So, which will be cool. And it's like a big goal for me was to bring boxing back to the mainstream, and especially for the grassroots. And I feel like doing the expo, we're going to do 2 days at the ICC in Darling Harbour on the 12th and 13th of October. And they should have 50,000 people coming through the doors. So that's going to be mad exposure for all the amateur guys, a different scene, a unique environment. And it's like people are going to be watching that don't really watch boxing. And so right. I think given the fights that we're going to put on, it's going to spark a lot of interest from the common public. And I think that's it's going to build the promotion and build the sport as well.
Yeah, I think we're giving a bit of a platform, and definitely if you don't like boxing or you don't watch boxing, you're not familiar with it, you can still come down, and it's an entertaining day as well. We've got some funny characters on the card and some hosts, but you can get a lot out of it. It's not just boxing, and I think that's sort of the best thing about it, especially with amateurs. It's before they get serious. Some of them are still learning the sport themselves, and it's nice to see how it all works, because not many people go to amateur fight nights and really just go to the pro fight nights.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think it's for me a big part of what I'm trying to do is grassroots boxing. So I don't think I'll ever stray away from that. And it's also just planting the seeds for the future generations. So grassroots boxing, that's where I came from.
Yep.
And that's where champions are born. Like I remember when I was young, I would have been 23, maybe even younger. And George, I was in the room with Cambosis on a camp for the guys for the Commonwealth Games. We were all trialing for that. There was 40 of the best fighters in Australia, and they were all just from the grassroots. And you see where the crew of those guys are now. I was the young green one, but it was like Cambosis, the Maloneys, some top fighters in there.
Yeah, wow.
And you just look at where they all progress. I'm like, man, that's all from grassroots boxing. It's massive.
It is, and it gives them that thing to talk about as well. Like when you interview them, they bring back their amateur days, and it's something they're really proud of. I understand they're proud of their pro career, but then they say, I've had like 100 amateur fights, and I lost a heap of them, but I won a heap of them, and I learnt so much. And it's really interesting hearing people's stories of how they got into boxing and how many times they got knocked down and they get back up, and now look at them, they're champions.
Well, there's a guy that I always tell people about. His name was Daniel Lewis.
Yep.
And I don't know if you know him.
No,
but
I do. I've seen him fight a couple of times.
He was one of Australia. He beat Tim Tszyu in the amateurs.
He did. He beat him in the amateurs.
Yeah, and he was one of Australia's best amateurs. And when I was younger, we went away in the New South Wales team.
He still fights out of Southside when he was doing all this.
Yeah. We went down to Tasmania. It was when I fought Luke Jackson.
Wow.
And we were in the New South Wales team, and he was the young pup in the team. And he ended up getting, he got smashed in his fight, and his dad was there, and he got all emotional, and he was crying, and that when we're coming back. And the dad was saying to him, like, this happens, don't quit or whatever. And so, mate, I just remember seeing him keep showing up. And then he got to a point where no one could touch him. And so he had, like, I remember seeing him like a couple of years down the track. He had 60 odd fights at the time. And then no one in Australia could touch him after that. And then they're going up to have 120 amateur fights or something. And I always look at that and I'm like, man, that's all what it is, just about just keep showing up. And even if you lose, there comes a point where your skill set grows beyond any guys in that level because you've had so much practice. And that's what happened with him, that he was just dominating everyone.
Yeah, I think the last time I watched him spar was against Cohen and Matteo Tapia. And that was a really interesting spar. Like, that's your super welters. And they're probably the most exciting division in the boxing besides your heavyweights. And I remember watching them, like, this fight is so entertaining. Just 100 punches to one. Like, it was just, kept going. And you just see that talent and you see how much they've done in that time. And it's like, yeah, this is the quality of boxing. And they're getting on the cards that you're obviously doing. So you're going to be chasing all these really great guys and getting them on your cards in the future.
Yeah, it's good. Like, I'm super excited for what the future brings, and it's and I feel like we're just warming up, so people can really, next year is going to be a massive year for Wanderer Promotions, and I think people are starting to see that now. Like, everyone I speak to now is like, man, like, you're doing a fucking awesome job. You're gonna make some big waves. So, and I can feel that as well.
We're excited for it. So do you want to run through the dates for the next events coming up before the end of the year?
So we've got the Australian Fitness Expo for all the amateurs. So that's on the 12th and 13th of October. The guys can register now on the Boxing New South Wales website. We're going to do 50 amateur fights across the 2 days on the Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 4 p.m. And then we've got the Wanderer Promotions Warehouse Rumble 3. That's on as we're moving that to a Sunday now, and it's on the November 24th. So we're going to finish the year with a bang. We've got a couple of the pro fights locked in already, a couple title belts on, and so there's going to be some great fights as well. We're looking for a good set of local guys to go on that show. There's been a lot of interest already, so I'm super excited to bring that to life as well.
So make sure you get your bloods up to date, your certificate of fitness, and get down to Boxing New South Wales online and get registered, because you don't want to miss out, especially as Fit Expo for amateur fighters. And then obviously you've got Wanderers 3 Warehouse Rumble. We've got social content rolling out for that one prior to the event, and we're just creating hype around it because, no word of lie, one of the best shows I've been to in Australian boxing. It's really up there, top tier, and it's only just begun. So you want to get behind us. Wanderer Promotions. See you later.
Thank you.